About 25 years ago I had just gotten off of my shift with a law enforcement agency. I had not bothered to fully change out of my uniform and I still have my tan tactical pants on. And a brand new red Henley type shirt that I pulled over my department polo shirt. And at that time I decided to stop at the local Target in order to do some last-minute Christmas shopping. Because I am also 6FD6 and I also typically get people asking me to get something off of higher shelves. At one point I had a Karen following me asking me to get things off of higher shelves for her, etc. And then she started asking me about pricing, and I had no idea why, not even thinking about my tan pants and red shirt, so I asked her to please leave me alone so I could do my shopping in peace. Little did I know that she would go and find a manager and complain about the really tall employee ignoring her needs. While peacefully shopping I was approached by Karen and the manager, with the manager telling me that I was supposed to be providing customer service especially during the holiday season and that rudeness would not be tolerated in her store. And that I should clock out and not come back to work. And that I would not be getting my employee discount with my purchase that evening. I had nothing, simply nothing to say because I've never been fired from Target before. I took the last of my shopping to the checkout lane where the manager and the Karen followed me. It was at that time while I was checking out that I opened my wallet with my badge and credentials in it. And then had the presence of mind to say something to the manager, something along the lines of, "Do you even know who works for you?" The Karen harumphed off, and the manager's soul seemed to depart her body. Best part was the cashier and security guy cracking up. TLDR. Went into Target with tan work pants and a red Henley shirt on, and got fired from a job that I didn't have. My dad told me this story a few years back. My grandfather lived in a really rural area in Georgia. This was around the late 1930s, early 1940s. My grandfather owned a farm and had a garden. He had planted various veggies. Well, the only neighbors were about a mile away. And for some reason the neighbors would drive their Model T through the garden, tearing up the veggies. My grandpa would have to replant the garden. The neighbors kept doing this. So here comes the revenge part. My grandfather dug holes around the garden and stuck metal poles into the holes. He covered up the holes with leaves. A few days later the neighbors drove through again. My dad said they tore the undercarriage out and had parts strewn all over the place. He couldn't remember what happened after that. But I don't think they did that again. The show that got many of us into stories with no ending and the show our sub's name is based on is finally back. Link at the bottom. After not hearing anything about it for over a year after the announcement, Netflix just dropped the reboot out of the blue. If you aren't familiar with this show, here is a synopsis of the original that aired from 1987 to 2010. This series uses reenactments and interviews to retell the circumstances of, well, mysteries that are unsolved. Covering crimes, tales of lost love, unexplained history and paranormal events, viewers are encouraged to provide information that might solve the mystery. The original host, Robert Stack, is gone, but they have gone back to the original opening and appears to be nothing like the Dennis Farina remake. In case anyone is unaware, the original show is on Film Rise and they have put all of the episodes for free on YouTube. I was reminded of one recently. I swung by an office to drop off a laptop and do new employee orientation. It took way longer than expected, so I was dialing into my next meeting on the way out the door. The new site lead, mid-major, small site, caught me and said, "Manager, oh hey, I have this issue that I need to take a look at." Me, "I'm sorry, I'm way behind, can you put in a ticket and we'll prioritize?" Manager, "This is a business-critical issue that is affecting work performance for the whole site. It's a top-level priority." Me, "Okay, then you absolutely need to call the Mission Control Hotline. If I can help you with it, they'll put it on my calendar, but then I'll have a woe in the budget to fix it." Manager, "No, I need this taken care of right now." Me, "Sigh, what is going on?" Manager, "Well, we had a thunderstorm around 2 p.m. yesterday, and the power cut out for the whole building and no one was able to work." Me, "But the server was still up, right? And the emergency lighting?" Manager, "Well, the lights came on, and I think I still heard noise in the server room. But there was no power. Don't you think it's pretty important that we have power to do our jobs?" Me, "Wait, how long did it last?" Manager, "About 5, maybe 10 minutes. After swearing that I would look into a huge battery or something, I got out of the building. It turns out, 1. Everyone at the site works from laptops, so everyone could have simply undocked their laptops and continued work, since 2. The servers and infrastructure are powered by a huge battery, and a large diesel generator to back it up, which actually spun up within 45 seconds of the power outage and brought all power to the building back on. And 3. Almost all workstations have UPS-A installed anyway, but Site Manager didn't have one in his new cube. When asked why, well, I didn't know what it was. I tried to carry it to my new desk, but it was super heavy and beeped when I was holding it. So I figured it had a GPS tracker that knew I was moving it, so I put it back. He tried to add me on LinkedIn when he got laid off. This just happened an hour ago. Some backstory: I recently moved into a new flat. It's in a residential building, around 15 flats altogether, and it comes with its own security system. That security system is loud. You can hear it from the next building over, as if it's a car honking in your ear. I don't know why they made it so loud. I don't know how to turn it down or to quiet mode. You can probably tell where this is going now. This week I've been doing back-to-back 12 hours work shifts. I've been training new hires and even practically slept at my office once or twice. The past 2 days I didn't even have time to sleep as there were work issues that I had to handle on top of training the new guys. So I walk back into my flat at 4 a.m. and I think to myself, I sure hope I don't mess up the pin code and wake up everyone. And then I mess it up. I've no idea how, must be the sleep deprivation, but my mind came up with a completely different code. I entered it 5 times, not being able to hear my thoughts by the 5th time. It was horrible. I thought it'd keep ringing until the police came, aka for a good half hour. Thankfully my landlord was also woken up and came up, in his pajamas. He saw me, punched in the right code, and went off to sleep again. It's safe to say I woke up every person in the building. Have you ever been woken by a fire alarm? It's kind of like that. No clue how I'll face my neighbors from now on. Honestly, I might as well lie and say someone tried to break in, otherwise I'm not sure they wouldn't straight up murder me. DL, doctor came home late and extremely tired, forgot my security alarm code. Security alarm blared so loud it woke up everyone in the building and probably made them think it was a fire alarm. Long ago, I used to work at a call center of an insurance company. One fine day an older lady called about her car insurance. Me: could I have your customer number, plate number, or SSN? Caller: plate number is XAB123. I thanked her, and started looking for it from our systems, but no luck. So try make sure, it was ZAB123? C: yes. Okay, I'm having some difficulty finding it, could I have your SSN to search with that? C: no. ZAB123, I know that is enough for you to find it. I tried to search again, unable to come up with an insurance in our system. Then I also tried the National Registry, where all existing plate numbers surely are. But that came up empty as well. So I'm still having difficulty finding your vehicle. Are you positive it is Xavier Alpha Bravo 123? C: sighing, clearly disgusted with my ineptitude, yes I'm sure, it is, in a condescending tone, X as in Zorro. 5 seconds of awkward silence. I used the silent time to find ZAB 123 from our system, and cheerily told her that I was finally able to find her insurance. Let's just say that her tone was much more receptive for the rest of the call. When we hired Kavina the nanny, previously featured here and here, we of course gave her a key to the front door, but she ended up going through our garage pretty much all of the time, because we had a convenient keyless entry keypad, and that was where we kept our stroller and we had a bench for shoes there. One day she called in a panic, saying the garage door was broken and she couldn't get in. Thankfully I was working from home, so I just went over to the front door and let her in. Now, the power door garage door opener can be shut off by a wall switch. To ensure nobody flips the switch off by accident I had put a cover over it. So I went to the garage and sure enough, the cover was missing and the switch was off. I flipped it back on, then asked her about it and she suddenly remembered that she had bumped the cover off by accident and didn't think it was important. Then I asked if she could check her keyring, because I wanted to make sure she could use the front door in the future. Okay, she said, but I'm sure I don't have a front door key. I'd remember. See, this is my own apartment key, my car key, my mailbox key, and I have no idea what this other one is. That looks like our front door key. Let's try it. Of course, it was. This happened a few weeks ago, but I just joined this sub today and want to share. We regularly get strange, rude, or hostile customers. There's a particular husband and wife who come in frequently. It's always an ordeal when they show up. They love to talk, and while we will entertain it briefly, there's usually not more than 2 people working a shift, so we don't always have time to deal with it. On this day, the lady came in first. She immediately hit me with the "you look high." I get that a lot. I just have tiny eyes. Nothing I can do about it. If I was high, I wouldn't lie about it. But I wasn't. So I firmly, but calmly, insisted so. She wasn't believing it. She told me she has a daughter the same age, so she knows what it looks like to be high. I eventually let it go because she wasn't budging. I decided it would be easiest to go along with whatever she said so she'd get her stuff and leave. After that, she proceeded to ask me what size jeans I wear because I look tiny. I reluctantly told her. Then she decided that I was her new daughter, and she wanted a fist bump. Internally cringing, I obliged. Throughout the course of her visit she kept referring to me as her daughter. She needed my reassurance that I was still, in fact, her daughter. Once she picked out her stuff, I started to feel victorious. Almost there. Then her husband comes in. He loves to ask a million questions about things he is never going to buy. So I help him out. Yes, finally time to pay. But wait. He refuses to pay for her. They get into a fight. She can't figure out how to make her card work, and that annoyed him. He gets mad and slams her brand new item on the glass counter and walks out. She proceeds to tell me all about how they are now going to get a divorce and it's been a long time coming, and she don't need no man and he can find somebody else to ride him around to sell drugs. He left his own item in the store and she saw it. Immediately said, "I bought this." Stuffed it in her purse. You didn't see anything. She actually asked me to put it behind the counter and pretend I didn't know where it was, but I refused. Not getting in the middle of that. She finally left shortly after, which ended up being about an hour, and guess what? They came back together a week later as if nothing had happened. So title pretty much sums it up. I work at a bank, and one of the most common queries we get from customers is if a phone call they have received is actually from us or a scam. This happened when I had only been working at the bank for a few months, but a customer came in saying he'd been getting multiple phone calls a day from the bank saying he needed to transfer money out to a safe account, so came in to see what was actually going on. After checking records, it definitely was not us calling him. Top tip: your bank would never ask you to transfer money anywhere. I told him to stop answering the phone and just block the number. It was at this point they tried calling him again, so we decided to have some fun. Customer answered the phone and the scammer started the spiel that he needed to go into the bank and transfer money straight away. It was urgent, but to tell us that the money was for family. He replied, "Well, I'm actually in the bank right now. I'll hand you to the cashier and you can tell her the details." I didn't know what to expect down the other end of the phone, but after introducing myself to the scammer, who at this point was probs in a panic, they started cursing me and telling me it was wrong for me to pretend to work for a bank. How dare I put people in danger and try to steal their money. I then pointed out that it was he in fact that was doing that, and again got, "You don't work for the bank. You're a scammer." Blah blah blah. The customer and myself let him go on for another minute and then just hung up. Surprisingly, this has happened to other colleagues of mine. I don't know what the scammers think they are going to achieve at this point, cause the customer is obviously not going to believe from an anonymous person on the phone that the fully uniformed employee in front of them doesn't work for the bank, but who knows? Arguing back with scammers can be a bit of fun for us, especially knowing some of the damage they cause. Sorry if my English is bad. I'm French. When I was 16, I had a 35 to 40 English teacher. At the beginning of the year, I sat in front of his desk with my friend. My desk was stick to my desk's teacher. He was very kind with me, but for me, it was too much. When he gives example for English exercises, he took my name and make an example with it while he was staring at me. I never be a troublemaker, I was a very calm person. But even if I was talking a lot with my friend, he never yell at me. But what bothers me was his eyes staring at me every minute, and I felt that it was not normal, but for reassure me, I thought it was just my imagination, that I was exaggerating. One day, after an English class, I was waiting on the side of the class in the building, just because I didn't want to go out. It was very cold and I wanted to stay in. Everyone left the class. Outside, a lot of students of high school smoke. The English teacher left the last after all the students. I was waiting and I see him behind me because there was a large window in front of me and I see his reflection. I don't know why, but I feel very bad and completely anxious to see him and to see there was nobody except us in the corridor. He began to come towards me, but fortunately, another teacher, a woman, left her class at this moment and began to talk to him. I took this opportunity to escape. Today, I'm 31. And I learned that this teacher is in jail because he was charged with sexually touching a minor, a 15 years old girl. So we are extended stay and we get a lot of truckers. In Law County it's mandatory that you wear a mask outside. Every day I see residents come into our room without masks. It's frustrating how people are not taking this virus serious. If someone tests positive they can stay in our hotel, putting everyone at risk. Long story short, we had a guy test positive for the virus. We found out from another guest who he told and he admitted he tested positive for it. He has been walking around without a mask like life is great and my boss allows it. I'm so disgusted with the company. They value money over everyone's lives. I just needed to rant lol. Setup. About 10 years ago I'm sitting at the bar of an expensive chain Italian restaurant as a patron. I used to work at that location but started at another an hour away. So I'm always excited to get some good food at my 50% off employee discount. Poke the bear. There's not many seats at the bar and I'm waiting on some friends to join me. I notice a gentleman has a few chairs empty on either side of him. BK equals Bear Karen, guy at the bar. T equals Troy, a waiter I worked with for over a year. Me, excuse me sir. Feel free to say no, but I have a few friends on the way I'd like to sit with. Would you mind scooting down one chair, please? This is the first and last time I'll ever ask. BK was a little confused. I already ordered food and this is my chair and I'm staying here. Me, okay no problem. BK, do you work here? Me, needlessly being open, no I actually work at other location, but I used to work here. My friend calls and I tell them we can just sit at the high tops next to the bar when they get here, making no mention of the interaction I just had. While playing on my phone I notice BK glaring at me. BK, telling your friends all about me? Huh? I honestly don't remember his words verbatim, just that he was acting paranoid about me talking about him to my friends. Me, no you're good man no worries. I thought the interaction was over but he went as far as to stop a server carrying a handful of hot apps, Troy, and complained that I had so rudely requested he move a seat. BK, do you believe that? This guy asked me to move down. T, the nerve of some people. As Troy gives me a little grin then quickly escapes the situation to tend to his table. My friends get to the restaurant and we start having a nice time. Our server was actually the guy who hired me. He started to take our order when BK walked up to our table uncomfortably close to both me and our server. BK grabs my left arm firm. How about we go talk outside? Me being 22 or so at the time, didn't get into fights in school, didn't pick up on the let's take this fight outside vibe. I just knew it was uncomfortable and didn't know what to do because it was so unexpected. Me, I'm with my friends right now so no. BK, well I work for this company and I'm going to see that you're fired. And he storms out. This all happened while my server and my friends were waiting to get an order in and just had to sit there while watching this 60-year-old man Karen try to fight me outside a nice Italian restaurant. In hindsight I think he was drunk, lonely, sitting at a bar by himself and needed to feel big when his fragile ego was damaged by my asking him to move down one. So in his mind, I deserve to be beaten in a parking lot. Makes complete sense. Another blast from the past, and this time some good-humored compliance. I was working for an audio-video/PC rental company with a decent-sized warehouse. We were tasked with building shelving to reorganize and build a small working space for the warehouse crew. A few coworkers, the boss, and I were all tearing things down, rebuilding, running back and forth from the hardware store to get wood. It was generally a fun day for me, where I didn't have to worry about timelines for getting things in and out the door. The boss, about 4 hours into my day, calls out. "Beard. These boards are too short, go get the stud stretcher." "Okay boss, where should I look?" "Look all over and find one. We need it to finish this. Don't come back without an answer for me." He figured I wouldn't know that wasn't real, after all I was pretty young and a lot of people thought pretty dumb. He figured it would be some light hazing. So, I rolled with it. Off I went to look for a non-existent product. First I looked at the cafe down the road, and inquired about one while I got a sandwich. I checked at the convenience store when I stopped to get some tea. I checked all around the storage cubby we were going to clean out while I made a little nest to take a nap in. I checked with myself a few times, before and after I took a short nap. All in all I wasted about 2 hours looking for something I knew wouldn't exist. Coming back to the boss he laughed, and had a grand time poking fun at me wasting time, while on the clock, looking for something fake. I just "aw shucks boss," answered a few times. About a week later, when we went out for a drink, I told him what I did. Luckily he laughed and owned up that it was on him for sending me on the task. No harm, no foul, but hey, I got a paid lunch and a nap. I'm a courtroom assistant in a Southeast Asian country. I'd rather not get much further than that on identifying information. We do both security and practical assistance like moving displays, escorting juries, and some ceremonial stuff as well. This was the sentencing of an evil flip on several high crime offenses, similar to what a capital offense may be in America. Here high crime is the level above criminal offense, or felony for the rest of the world. He stalked, kidnapped, raped, and murdered a locally famous and growing pop artist who was pregnant. He was charged with stalking, high crime kidnapping, high crime rape, high crime murder, high crime fetal homicide, and a bunch of other stuff. Evil Flip, as he will be referred to from here on out, was on suicide precautions as he made threats against his own life in prison, so he was in spiffy paper clothes. We were well into victim impact statements. The victim had a large family and there were something like 35 individuals addressing the court. We're something like 28 statements into it. Next up was Granddad. These are always really emotional, families are always really upset for good reason, but this 80-plus old guy is the worst I can remember. He was crying, breathing heavily, shaking, the entire sentencing. He was called to make his statement, starts walking up, about past the counsel table. He then turns, tackles the attorneys and Evil Flip. He didn't get much in on the Evil Flip, maybe a kick and 2 punches before 15 of us pile up on him. He was taken into custody, and it quickly became apparent that Evil Flip got what was coming. Evil Flip is screaming and gagging for about 20 seconds, then he starts convulsing, came back in about 2 minutes choking/gagging, really bad. We put him on his side and get an ambulance on the way. The rest of the gallery was evacuated and court went into recess. By time the ambulance arrives he's not breathing, only twitching and has no pulse. They do CPR, take him out to the hospital. He was revived and died later that day. Coroner's report said his brainstem was damaged, his skull was broken, and brain herniated through break in his skull. The Granddad was interviewed by national police who have jurisdiction of courts. He said that he'd been planning that for days, he felt no remorse, said if he had time he would have killed the attorneys too. It also came out that the Granddad was in my country's mob back in the day, had 40 years in prison prior for drowning someone in petrol and lighting their corpse on fire. He was suspected but not confirmed to be involved in several other high-profile murders. He was charged with murder, conspiracy, contempt of court, and 2x simple battery for the attorneys. He was found not guilty of everything except contempt of court, to which he was originally sentenced to 4 years but it was reduced to terminal probation with home confinement due to his health. So first off, this isn't my story but I figured I'd share. I'm a tech and I became friends with the recently grad pharmacist and she's a bit of a baby face. She claims it's because she's Asian but she has a high squeaky voice to go with the baby face, so it's a pretty good mix. So we get a typical customer that can't understand their meds and instead of talking about it like an adult starts screaming at us. The pharmacist comes over and tries to help. Immediately the customer starts off with, "Are you even old enough to work here?" Get me the pharmacist. You could feel the dread in the air after that. The pharmacist handled it properly even though you could see she wanted to scream, but I wanted to share because I wanted to hear any similar stories. If you've got any, please share. Not totally true, but I could not come up with a better title. My wife has a habit of leaving stranded on the toilet without toilet paper after she used up the last of the roll. This leaves me finding out just a bit late and duck walking to the closet to grab another roll. After complaining a few times and her responding with, "I should be paying more attention," I decided to have a little bit of revenge every time this happens. Ever since I decided on this, which has been half a dozen times or so, every time I get stranded I commit the cardinal sin of DP installation. That's right, boys and girls. I put the darn roll-on backwards. For those of you wondering, that would be with the roll-on rolling back away from you and forcing you to pull from the back. Every time this happens I notice it turned around the next time I use the facilities. I get a nice giggle every time. Nothing outrageous, but after 25 years of wedded bliss it is the little things that make it great. Hi there. Mobile poster, so sorry for the layout. So this story happened to me about 2 years ago. A little fact about me: I was born in Mexico but raised in and live in Canada. And I do not look like a Latina. One day I was at the bus stop waiting to go home from my ex's house. At the bus stop there is this man. He is kinda tall, very round and had a beard that looked like a bunch of bees. It was pretty late and I was about an hour away from my home, so I call my mom to let her know that I am on my way and that everything is fine, but I say all of this in Spanish. Once I hang up the phone he gets closer and talks to me. NB, excuse me, but was that Spanish? Me, oh yay. NB, how did you learn it? Me, my parents taught me. NB, why would they do that? Me, well, it's our native language. I'm not from here. NB, yes you are. You are white. At this point I move away from him as I'm getting uncomfortable and he moves closer. Me, I may look white but I'm from Mexico. NB, then you should speak Mexican. Not Spanish. Spanish is from Spain. How dare you speak a language that isn't yours? Me dumbfounded, well, Spaniards went to Mexico and taught the native Spanish, now everyone there speaks Spanish. NB, well whatever. You shouldn't speak Spanish if you live here anyways. Me, I can speak whichever language I want to whomever I want. Now stay away from me. I move away again and NB crosses his arms and pouts like a child. Every once in a while I could hear him call me stupid immigrant and racist B under his breath. After about 5 minutes of this I put on one earbud and ignore him. The bus came and we both got on. I sit in the middle area and he tries to sit beside me, but I put my bag beside me and I give him a cold stare. So he tries to sit behind me and that is when I smelled him. Just imagine a mix of old cheese, beer and pee. Yay, gross. So I get up and move to the front. He get up to follow me, but then I talk to the driver of the bus. Me, excuse me? Sir? D, yes? Me, that man has been bothering me since the bus stop and I just want him to leave me alone. We stop at another bus stop and he looks at the neckbeard. D, hey buddy. You sit back there and leave the girl alone or I'm kicking you out again. Me, thank you so much. The neckbeard sits down in the back and pouts again and I sit close to the driver. Then I got off to take my train and thankfully he didn't get off. And that's it. Not the most extreme story, but it's stuck with me. Thanks for reading. Reading through the thread and got reminded of something that happened years ago. I was in 4th year of high school, and our usual maths teacher was out. We got a sub, Mr. G, who set off my anxiety. Was a nice enough guy, but gave me the heebie-jeebies. I was a mostly well-behaved kid, but would cut his class whenever possible, give short answers etc., so he wasn't too keen on me. I take notes down differently, shorthand, since that's how I learn. One day Mr. G sees my notes, and says I need to rewrite them. I refuse, so he scores a pen through them saying to write them again. I refuse, saying can still read them. Mr. G then gives 2 options: rewrite the notes, or get out of his class. So I pack up my stuff, stand up, and walk towards the door. Mr. G, where are you going? Me, you gave me an option, so I'm leaving. He started shouting about how he didn't mean it literally, which brought the head of maths to the classroom. Mr. G tried to say I tried to leave without permission, when a few classmates backed me up with the malicious compliance. Head of maths couldn't figure out what was the problem, and let me sit in the base for the rest of the year 20. Teams message from a user who previously worked for us, quit, then came back last week and has been a perpetual thorn in my side since then. Hey op, how do I get Google Drive to work? / sends instructions / That doesn't work. / internal screaming / OK, screen share with me. Open screen share and log into Google Drive for user. / gesture vaguely with mouse / Hey, I quit last year in May 2019 and had a bunch of files on my laptop. Oh great, you're not really going to ask that, are you? Where would they be backed up to? I had a lot of files and that info would be super helpful. Me, yeah, we don't do that. Are you sure? Me, yes, your MGR at the time would be the only one who was allowed to pull data from it if he or she requested it. Okay, I'll go ask him. And #X200B. DLDR, user left almost 15 months ago with no plans to return at the time, now back and wants all her files from last time restored to her computer. Previous HD is in a shred pile or re-imaged and redeployed somewhere. User shocked that we don't have it sitting on a bench waiting for her to return. This one is short and sweet. I've been having issues with a co-worker who has been very passive-aggressive lately, posted about it elsewhere if you want to hit up my post history. The short of it is she spends a lot of time doing busy work / socializing, and I'm doing my best to just get work done, but she feels like I don't do anything important and am way too lazy. At one point we were very close, but somewhere along the line she just decided I wasn't a good co-worker. I found out about 6 months after the fact that she had been thinking this. She also claims to absolutely hate staying late and having overtime. This is all just to set up the dynamic that has devolved between us. I spend as much time during the day trying to get all the little pieces done so I can leave right on time. I have a puppy at home and have zero desire to stay later than necessary. Coworker likes to talk, a lot. Today she spent a good hour talking with the supervisor about all the past places they've worked and how it compares to where we are now. We were at shift changeover, and I was talking with a second shift guy and he managed to mix up his words in a very comical fashion, making the two of us burst out laughing. She looks over from where she's doing paperwork and asks what's up, and we explain around laughing. And she just kind of rolls her eyes and says, "Oh, I didn't catch that. You know, 'cause I'm actually working." Sorry. Not really. Sometimes I'm sorry though. Not often. Yes, it was phrased exactly like that. I roll my eyes in return. We've got 13 minutes left until clock out and I had finished my paperwork while she had been chatting earlier. However, when clock out came, she was still chugging along. Normally I offer to help, but, you know, she's actually working. And I'm obviously not, so I'm just gonna leave. And so I tidy up my area, say my goodbyes, and leave. 'Cause I'm not actually working. When I checked my email this evening, she had been sending emails out a good half hour after clock out. TLDR, coworker implies I'm not working, so I don't offer to help her with her work. I have been going to the same grocery store for years. I usually go after work. My work uniform has a large golden M on it. The grocery store uniforms do not. It doesn't matter if I've got a cart full of stuff or I'm talking to my mother. When she was alive she was nearly blind, so I read a lot of things to her. Someone will invariably ask me a question or let me know the store is out of something. Here are a couple of highlights over the years. I'm reading the label off sugar-free gelatin to my mother and a crotchety old man demands to know where the pre-made Jell-O is at. I politely tell him he should check in the deli. He tells me I should stock all the gelatin together. I agree with him and then tell him if I worked here, that's what I would suggest to whomever makes those decisions. He just walked away. Walking through the store pushing a cart full of groceries, a random lady walks up to me and holds out a child's glove and tells me that someone dropped it. I politely take it and walk to the service desk and turn it in. I still can't figure that one out, as I had a plain black winter coat on. I had a random lady walk up to me to let me know they were out of the bread she was looking for. Thankfully an actual employee was nearby. I politely told her that if she told him, he might know when the store would get it back in stock, as I did not work there. The employee just smiled at me. A very sweet little old lady asked me about a particular brand of potato chips. I told her I wasn't sure, but that I would happy to find someone that works here to find out. She was visibly embarrassed. Told her it wasn't a problem. All of this on top of the countless times that I've been asked to get something off a high shelf, 6 feet 4 inches, or pick up something heavy. Having worked in customer service for years has just trained me to help whenever I can. I especially enjoy dealing with the more unpleasant customers. Kill them with kindness, but never let them walk all over you. Remember, the worse they behave, the more stupid they look. I'll keep this short. I work in an office that doesn't have a separate bathroom, so we have to use the communal bathroom on the floor. I was sitting down doing my business when another person went in to use the urinal. I looked at the shoes they were wearing and I thought it was my friend/co-worker using the urinal, so naturally I let out a very loud, straining grunt, in order to make him aware of my presence. I got no response at all. The other person quickly finished, ran the faucet for 5 seconds, and quickly left, without even drying his hands. After a minute or so I quietly finish up, wash my hands, and try to leave as quickly and quietly as I can. When I got back to the office I asked my friend if that was him in the bathroom. Spoiler alert, it was not. DL Doctor, don't make unnecessary grunting in the bathroom if you don't know who else is in there. I work at a small-town coffee shop that has managed to adapt and stay busy during COVID-19 by utilizing a window for walk-up service. A regular problematic customer, let's call him TJ, is a typical middle-aged man riddled with toxic masculinity. He often makes female employees and customers uncomfortable with his comments. Lately he's been around a lot, being typical TJ. Today he came to our window and ordered a coffee, cool, nothing out of the ordinary. A co-worker asked him if he would like to tip via our Square register. We normally don't verbally ask customers, but with the current pandemic we are not allowing customers to touch our iPad system. He proceeded to tell her to put 100, and reassured them he wanted to tip that much because he appreciates our hard work and effort and wants to chip in since our business has been a bit slower. Okay, I gave him that and almost have a change of heart about DJ. We both outwardly thank him and he goes on his way. I text my boss about this uncharacteristic interaction with TJ, and through their end of the register system she was able to look at the transaction. They noticed that not only was the credit card he used not in his name, but in his boss's name, on their company card. Typical TJ. What a D-bag. Audrey Moran, 26, was last seen leaving her sister's home on May 10, 2017. She was driving to pick up her boyfriend, Jonathan Reynoso, 28, from a friend's house. Later that night, Audrey's sister received a text message from Audrey that contained a selfie of Audrey and Jonathan. It has since been determined that the photo was not taken that night, but is unknown when the photo was taken. After not hearing from Audrey, the family reported her missing. On May 12, 2017, her vehicle was found abandoned by the side of the road. Search dogs were able to follow the scent for a little bit before it stopped, leaving police to believe the couple left in another vehicle. With the help of several tips, leads, and information, the police have now arrested 3 men in connection with the disappearance and have charged them. 2 are charged with murder, with a special circumstance of murdering a witness, which makes them death penalty eligible, and the other charged with accessory to murder after the fact. The investigation and many search warrants have led the police to locate sets of human remains that are believed to be Audrey and Jonathan. There was a post on here written by a friend of Audrey on the 1-year anniversary of their disappearance. This happened a few years ago, but it still bothers me and I don't think it's something I can ever fix. In med school, I had met a girl and I was completely infatuated with her. She was such an amazing person and I felt like we really hit it off. Come end of semester, I was helping her move out of her dorm and she was leaving for the break the next day, so I offered to have her spend the night at my place. She ended up sleeping in my bed with me and before falling asleep I made a bit of a move and gave her a kiss. I think it surprised her a bit, but I think it was positively received, or at the very least from what I remember it wasn't outwardly negatively received. Now the part where I flipped up is that I have crazy vivid and hyper-realistic dreams all the time. I'm fairly certain I was having some sort of sex dream and then when I woke up in the morning I immediately felt like I couldn't tell if what happened was a dream or I had done something stupid. I have this memory that for some reason I very awkwardly stuck my hand down the top of my t-shirt that she was wearing and felt her up. We had a very awkward moment in the morning where I talked to her about what I thought had happened but said that I was actually asleep. Long story short, it was a big deal for her, understandably, and that killed any chance of a relationship. We stayed in contact for a while but I haven't tried contacting her in a couple years now. In multiple relationships that I've had, before and since, my partners have mentioned on occasion that I would wake them with foreplay and sex and it took them a while to realize that I was sometimes completely asleep when things started and I would only sometimes wake up like halfway through. Other times I don't wake up at all. My current girlfriend thinks it's funny, and regularly asks me if I remember what I did during the night. Every time it comes up now though I always have these thoughts now about how this girl that I was so excited to have met must think that I'm a horrible creep. I don't think she'll ever realize that I was legitimately asleep and had no idea what I did, nor do I think she'll ever realize how sorry I am that I made her feel uncomfortable. DL, Doctor, there aren't many times that you meet someone that you think this is one of the good ones, but she was one of them and then I flipped up by groping her while I was completely asleep and I don't think she'll ever truly believe that what I said is true or that I'm sorry for what happened. I originally posted this in r/I don't work care lady and it was suggested I post it here too. Actors, me, wearing my store's blue polo with a red logo. Brian = very nice customer who worked for a different store with blue polos and a yellow logo. Karen = a wild Karen. So I used to work in the electronics section of big box store that has since closed most of its stores by now. One day Brian comes in and asks if we have a game that his store had sold out of. Now, I knew we did, but our game section was a disaster because of reasons so it would take a minute to find it. While I'm looking and having a pleasant conversation with Brian, a wild Karen appears and asks one of us to help her in the home phone section. This was before the age of cell phones. I tell her I'll be with her in a minute and continue to look for Brian's game. While I'm searching, Karen grabs Brian by the wrist and drags him to the phones. I find Brian's game, place it next to the register, and go see if I can help Brian get away from Karen. When I get there, I see Karen happily walking away with a POS phone and Brian, and I have a good laugh about Karen's while I ring him up. I gave him the employee discount for helping me with Karen. Just a quick story that happened today, not really as creepy as most, but it's a bit strange to me. English isn't my first language, so sorry about weird wording. For background, I'm a 17-year-old girl and I work at a small Mexican store. Today was very slow, so I was mostly stocking instead of being on register. I was putting some sodas in the fridge and this man comes around, so I moved out of the way so he could get by. He looked around late 40s, early 50s, and he said hello to me and started smiling widely, so I said hello back with my customer service smile. He walked past me and was still smiling widely at me. I didn't think much of it since I thought he was just being friendly. I went back to stocking sodas, but some of them were very sticky, so I decided to go wash my hands. The bathroom is very small, as you might expect from a small store, and creaks very loudly when it's opened. It's really only meant to be an employee bathroom since it's kinda tucked away in a sort of back area, and while it's not completely off limits to customers, most wouldn't go back there since it looks like an employee-only area, if that makes sense. So I went in and started to wash my hands. Not long after I entered, I heard the door start to creak open, so I looked in the mirror to see who it was and I saw the smiling man's head. He'd stuck in only his head and was still smiling widely. He then noticed I was just washing my hands and said "oh sorry" and slowly backed out and closed the door. I didn't think much of it since mistakes happen, right? So I just finished washing my hands and began to leave, and after opening the door I see him almost directly in front of me smiling. I again didn't think much of it. Maybe he just had to go very bad and thought might as well wait. He watched me walk by and I avoided eye contact because I thought it was weird he was still looking at me when the bathroom was available already. I sat at the register since I was done with the sodas and waited for customers. Then I see the man walk out of the store. It hadn't been long since I'd sat down, so I thought it was a bit strange, but I again disregarded it since maybe he just quickly washed his hands like me. However, the more I thought about it, the more I thought it was weird, since from the outside of the bathroom you could definitely tell someone was in there because the light was on and the sound of running water was very present. There's a part of me that wants to believe it was genuinely an accident and he was just a bit strange, but I'm really not sure anymore. In case there was bad intentions behind it though, weird smiling man who walked in on me in the bathroom. Let's not meet again. First time posting, currently a EMS dispatcher for a private ambulance company for 3 years now. We take some calls, however, they're usually seizures, psych, and falls. This one? Probably should have been psych, but unfortunately she wasn't the patient. This call happened in my first year, while I was pretty fresh and didn't understand the power of controlling a call. And #X200B. Me, okay. Tell me exactly what happened. CLR, yeah, my mom fell in the other room. You know we have her locked in there right now, but yeah, she fell and I think she may have hit her head. Me, okay, are you with her now? CLR, well, you see, she has dementia, and we live in a new home, so she is locked in there. You see, we can't have her wandering because of the bears that are around here. Me, have you gone to check on her yet? CLR, no. I can't unlock her door because she will get out and the bears will get her. Me, can you please go check on the patient? CLR, yeah, I think she might have hit her head, it sounded like she hit the end table, that's what woke me up, but even our big dog, insert large dog brand, is afraid to go outside because there are bears here at this new house. Please send the ambulance, but make sure they get in and out quick because the bears will get them. Rinse and repeat for literally every one of the 10 questions involved with a fall. I was essentially working with a third-party caller as she flat out refused to unlock her mother from the room until the EMTs got there, let alone even go look at her. And #X200B. I kid you not, I heard way more about these bears than I ever got out of her regarding her fallen mother. While I may have wanted to bash my head into the desk repeatedly asking her the questions, now I can have a good belly laugh over it. From what I do remember though, Mom was transported alright, and no EMTs were mauled by the darn bears. I pulled into the gas station, put the pump in my car, and walked inside. Yeah, that's right. I left the pump running while I went inside to go to the restroom and buy a drink. That's the first and last time I do that. Worst case scenario is happening as I walk back to my car. The gas is overrunning onto the ground and it smelled like a wall of vapor. It did stop after racking up about 40 gallons of gas onto the pavement. I take it out, and tell the attendant what happened. He goes to a parked car and bangs on the door. We got a problem. His coworker stumbles out of the car and looks like they just woke up. I felt really bad. It was the only time the gas pump on any car I've owned didn't automatically stop at full. I couldn't believe it. I imagine they simply hosed down the pavement, but I'm not sure. TL, doctor left my vehicle unattended while filling up gas. I filled up the parking lot instead. So obligatory not today, but actually 2 weeks ago. So I'm from Rhode Island, I'm Portuguese and I live in an area where there is very little Portuguese food. Brazilian isn't the same. I can make most of my favorites, but I can't ever get the rolls right. Papo secos or Portuguese split rolls are the most amazing rolls ever, and they are what really perfects all of the Portuguese meals I like to cook. Now my family still lives in Rio and they shipped me rolls once before, but they got moldy before they arrived. So I asked my sister if I paid for everything if she could pick up 4 bags and overnight them or something faster than last time. I also let her know that I didn't care if it was a bit more expensive. The 4 bags of rolls themselves were $15 and I was totally fine with that, and I was expecting like $50 to $75 to ship. My sister passed the task along to our grandmother after buying the rolls and just said I wanted them overnighted and didn't care if it was expensive. FYI, overnight shipping from one coast to the other is really expensive. So my grandma went to the post office and sent them off to me overnighted for the cost of $269.00, and I sent her a check for that money, which rounds out the cost per roll to about $12. Honestly, they were way more expensive than I expected. But they're perfectly delicious and kinda worth it. I froze them and have been defrosting them as needed. I've also gotten to feed friends and introduce them to the best bread they'll ever eat and my home-cooked Portuguese food too, so that's been fun. DLDR, asked my sister to ship me rolls via faster shipping/overnight to avoid mold. My grandma ended up with the task and overnighted them to me for a lot of money. Background to meet character minimum. My so is very into cooking lately. He's very talented and pretty much wings everything. Yesterday/today, he spent about 20 hours preparing a brisket and smoking it in his grill for the first time ever. It was delicious. My family always tells him he should open a restaurant, pipe dream, unless you would like to invest. Tonight after dinner, my sister and so decided to create a menu for this imaginary restaurant. We decided on an outdoor, Texas concept, as we are from Texas. We are trying to come up with clever names for all menu items. He went to Texas Tech, and apparently they toss tortillas around during football games. Weird. So, we get to the salad section. He'd already decided on tossing tortilla soup in the soup section. We are thinking a Southwest-type salad with tortilla strips, avocado, chicken, etc. He suggests tossing tortilla salad or something like that. Immediately he realizes it's a bad idea. Here's where my flip-up comes in, or really when I realized my FU, I say yay, like throwing up your food. My soul looks at me and asks if I know what getting your salad tossed means. I tell him it means to throw up. He looks at me in disbelief, asking if I've ever said that out loud. I have. If you two didn't know what tossing your salad/getting your salad tossed means, Google it. DLDR, I thought tossing your salad meant to throw up and have been using the phrase relatively often. Edit, typos. A good friend of mine is looking into getting a puppy in the near future. She lives with me, and I fully support the idea, so we went to a well-known pet shop here in the UK. Whilst we were looking round, I was talking her through all the different options for food, leads versus harnesses, toys, etc. Now I should probably mention here that I'm a soon-to-be registered veterinary nurse, so I know what I'm talking about. We're walking down one aisle and I'm chatting away explaining the differences between collars, harnesses, halters, etc. and I notice this guy lingering watching us. I figure he wants something behind us on the shelf, so we move on to look at beds. Decision made on the beds, we move back to the collar/lead section. I start talking again to answer a question and this same guy who is still in the aisle interrupts me and starts asking about finding a muzzle that fits his dog. I look at him for a second, wondering why he's interrupting my conversation with my friend when I realize despite my casual appearance, shorts and a vest top, I'm not even wearing the green color of the shop's uniform. He thinks I'm staff. I awkwardly shrug and say sorry, I don't work here pal, before sharing an awkward laugh with my friend and carrying on where I was interrupted. The guy got helped by someone who actually works there a few minutes later, although from my eavesdropping she didn't sound particularly useful. Maybe I should have helped the poor guy. DL, doctor, I got mistaken for a pet shop worker because I was explaining puppy-related items to my friend. I should start charging for giving out advice. Bartender at a local pizza joint. My buddy came in after a long day dealing with his 2 sick little girls. He tells me a story from today about the littlest. She's screaming for him from the bathroom. She states she's been waiting for 60 years for him. All she wanted was a cheese pizza from our place. Since they were sick, he went with something more appropriate for upset stomachs. But you can guarantee I got him a gift certificate for a cheese pizza for her when she's better. Nice to have good customers to even out the bad ones, lol. I worked in housekeeping in a hotel for months up until this past week. I'm now 35 weeks pregnant. I was scheduled to work 5+ days a week, with 20+ rooms to myself. I came into work recently, because I was on the schedule, and I could barely walk. I couldn't bend my back and my ankles were hugely swollen. I had been in L&D the night before to stop contractions. We didn't have many rooms, but 5 housekeepers in-house. Everyone was almost begging my manager to send me home, as we had too many housekeepers for the amount of rooms. Now, I'm huge at this point in pregnancy. I can't bend too far forward in general. My manager and I, discussed a couple weeks ago that she didn't want me cleaning bathtubs, so I was to have another housekeeper come clean my bathtubs. No biggie, I was fine with that. Well, the day before I quit I had went to find another HK to help with a bathtub. Said manager stopped us in the hall and asked what we were doing socializing on the clock. We explained that she was going to clean a bathtub for me and would go right back to her rooms. She yelled at me and said that if I can't do my job, I need to quit so that she can hire someone who's willing to work. I explained that it wasn't that I wasn't willing to work, rather that's one small task that I myself struggle with accomplishing. She didn't care. She continued yelling at me. Now, I've always hated being yelled at, so I spent the rest of my shift crying while cleaning my rooms. I got home from work, still crying. My boyfriend became extremely upset as I told him what had happened. We decided that it's in the best interest of our child that I just be done, as it's a lot of emotional trouble as well as physical. So I gave my manager her wish, and I went in and handed in my scrubs and quit. She seemed sympathetic, said she understood, was sad to see me go, and for me to come talk to her after I was released from maternity leave. Fast forward to today, another HK at said hotel was talking to this manager, while recording the conversation to send to me. She asked if I would be back after baby. The manager told her that I was lazy and a crybaby so she would never consider hiring me back. I'm glad I quit. I feel like I dodged a bullet. I'm not sure that I'll ever be able to convince myself to work in housekeeping again. When I was younger I'd often visit my grandparents with my mum. They live up north and it was always very nice to see them. One aspect of their small town is it's known for an abundant amount of parks. I'm proud to say that I'm an uncle and have 2 beautiful nephews. My older brother had them at a fairly young age, making me an uncle as early as age 7. My mom is a teacher and had an important conference call the weekend of our visit, and my nephews, her grandsons, were acting up because they wanted to go to the park. I was around 13 or 14 at this time and told my mom I could take them to the park considering it wasn't far away from my grandparents' house. She agreed to let me take them and they were having an absolute blast. Everything was going well until a strange man approached us. He came over walking a bike and seemed to be interested in my nephews. I got a bad feeling from the start. He told me that his bike chain had fallen off and asked if I knew how to fix it. I've never been good at fixing anything and had no idea how to fix his chain, and also thought to myself, if he owns a bike, isn't this something he should know how to do? I told him I didn't know how to and that we were just leaving. My nephews were really upset that I was making them leave and thought of me as the bad guy. They were so young and didn't understand the situation. The older of my nephews walked up, sat next to me while I had to carry the younger one. While we were leaving, this creepy man, probably in his 50s, followed us as we were leaving. I kept looking back as he followed from a distance of about 20 yards or so back. It was clear he was attempting to follow us home, so I approached an older lady near the park. I asked to use her phone and she could tell I was clearly nervous and something wasn't right. I pointed out the man behind us and she offered to call 911. Once the man noticed what was going on, he quickly fixed his bike chain and rode off in the other direction. I was very scared at the time and extremely thankful for the help from this older lady. I made it home safely with my nephews and told my mom about what happened. She hugged us all crying and apologized for not being able to make it. What I learned from this was that when in a dangerous situation you should never be afraid to ask for help. And that an act of kindness can go a long way. Obligatory, not actually in tech support. Not far off though, I'm a software engineer. Anyways, I was helping my father copy some files around on his laptop when this took place. Cast. Me equals me. Dad equals father, creator of me. The tale. Dad, Can you help me make 12 copies of this file? Me, yay, but why? Quick sanity check. Dad, one for each month. It's a form. Me, yup. Walking him through copy/pasting files. Showed him Ctrl+C and then Ctrl+V over and over to create new copies of the file. Blew his mind. Maximum sun points earned. Dad, suddenly stops pasting at about 9 copies, is that all I can fit? Is it full? Me, what? Dad, the hard drive. Is it full? I've got no space, look. Me, you've got plenty. Realizes what he means, start giggling to myself. He was using the details view for files in Windows File Explorer, so each pasted file went under the previous, taking up a line. The last file he pasted was right at the bottom of the window, almost touching it. He was asking if he ran out of hard drive space because it didn't look like another file would fit on screen underneath. Me, it's just a list of files, you'll just get a scroll bar, see. Pastes the rest of the copies and points out the scroll bar, and shows him how to see his disk capacity. Gave me a good laugh. Bless him. Also, he asks me how to copy/paste about 3 times a week, and has been doing so for easily the last decade. On exercise, one of my captains come to me and says, Corporal M, I think I've lost my pistol. Serious shoot time, except I'm already 99% sure of where it is. Sir, am I to assume that your holster is empty? Yes, Corporal M. And did you remove the pistol from the lanyard? No, the lanyard that you are still wearing, sir, is leading into your lower jacket pocket. I believe your pistol is there. Oh, thanks, Corporal M. No problem, sir. Lovely chap, outstanding in his chosen profession, but needed a minder out in the field. The boys didn't mind looking after him and he always had their backs. A few years ago I was doing some general shopping at Walmart. I had finished my shopping and now just browsing the outdoor/automotive sections. 20-ish Asian male, had an older Asian female, in her late 40s, come up to me speaking a foreign language and pointing to some of the shelves. I told her that I'm sorry, but I only speak English, and that I don't work here. She muttered a no and walked away. I wore a baseball cap, purple t-shirt, blue jeans and work boots that day. I've learned to never wear anything close to the color blue to Walmart again. So this happened about a year ago. My boyfriend of the time had invited me over to eat dinner with his parents, whom I did not know very well yet. For dinner, they had cooked some fish in delicious sauce. I didn't really think much of the fish at first, until I saw a dark-colored and curled object in the piece of fish I was eating. I thought it was just part of the flesh itself and kept eating. But I found another. And another. There were dozens of them. At this point, my brain finally realized that those small coiled things were definitely worms. I started to freak out, but I had no idea what to do. I'm a shy and anxious person, and I really didn't want to upset my boyfriend's parents by leaving the fish uneaten. My anxious self decided that the only thing I could do was to continue eating the parasite-ridden thing. I don't know how I managed to, but I somehow ate the whole thing, one wormy chunk of flesh at a time. As soon as dinner was over, I frantically looked online to see just how much I flipped up by eating a bunch of worms. Thankfully, it looks like thoroughly cooked fish doesn't appear to pose a risk for getting infected by parasites. But that experience will forever haunt me and I cannot eat fish anymore without fearing I'll see more large coiled worms. Dr. ate worm-infested fish. At my last job, and now in my current job, I would have these mandatory performance reviews that include my performance goals for the upcoming year. When I sign up for these, it's with the express purpose of preparing for a merit increase at the end of the period. This never happened in my last job because they were always making bad decisions that left them scrambling to make ends meet, much less try to give people pay raises. In my new job, of course, there's been an impact from COVID, so I was told there would be no merit increases this year because there's no money available. Okay, I get it, and it's fine because I wasn't eligible this time around anyway, but for next year, they're already saying no raises at the end of this year, but they still want us to do the performance reviews and goal setting. Of course you want your workforce to continue to improve and to meet the demands of the job, but I'm doing that. I just get a kind of minor issue with putting in the effort to do the performance review, but with no payoff from me in it. I don't know, maybe I'm the only one who feels this way. In my last job, it was completely pointless because no one even cared, not the employees, the bosses, or the managers. It was just a box you had to check, but here, It's like you're supposed to be all chipper about it like it's going to mean something. I am 14. I am a certified referee in my state. I know the rules as I've played by them my whole life along with taking the officiating classes. At our park district, no headers for ages below 11. But in U12, it is up to the referee's discretion. So if it's a small tap it's okay. That is exactly what happens. So the coach behind me screams at the top of his lungs there are no headers in U12 5 to 16 times. I ignore him. Though I could eject him. It was last game of the season and I didn't care. After a bit of yelling, he says fine, go duck yourself then, which I turn and tell at him for saying in front of U11 kids. I wish I sent him away or ended the match. Sadly I didn't do much and my partner is a longtime referee, officiated my matches as I grew up, and he is deaf. So he has no idea what happened. The person who runs Park District in my area has been informed and is taking action.